The evening sun poured soft golden light into the small living room where the Thompson family sat together. The husband, Daniel, leaned back in his worn-out chair after a long day of work. His children, a boy of 10 and a girl of 7, sat cross-legged on the carpet, laughing as they built a shaky tower out of toy blocks. Their mother, Laura, stood by the window, staring outside as if the world beyond the glass had secrets waiting just for her to anyone else. It looked like an ordinary family evening. But inside Laura's mind, there was a storm brewing. For months, she had been restless. She felt trapped by the endless chores, the tight budget, the noise of children, and the simplicity of her husband's life. Daniel was kind, steady, and hard-working, but his world was small. He came home tired, rarely spoke of dreams, and lived each day repeating the last. Laura, on the other hand, longed for more and more excitement, more freedom, more of life than what 4 walls and 2 children could give. That night, as the children giggled over their tower and Daniel smiled tiredly at them, Laura's heart felt heavy. She should have been happy, but instead, she felt suffocated. Is this all there is? She thought, her chest tightening. Cooking, cleaning, listening to kids argue, waiting for a man who brings home just enough to get by. She had met new people recently, friends who seemed free. Women who wore fancy clothes and spoke about travel, romance, and opportunities. They laughed in ways she had forgotten how to. They made her believe she was wasting her best years in a cage built of family duties. Slowly, their voices had become louder than Daniel's quiet love and her. Children's innocent laughter. The breaking point came quietly. One afternoon, Laura packed a small suitcase. She told herself it wasn't permanent, just a break to find herself again. But in her heart, she already knew she was leaving for good. When Daniel came home that evening, tired and carrying groceries, he found her waiting in the living room with the suitcase by her side. The children ran to him happily, tugging at his sleeves. Unaware of what was about to happen, "I'm leaving," Laura said flatly. Her arms crossed. Daniel froze, his eyes darting from her face to the suitcase and back again. "What do you mean? Leaving?" His voice cracked, half in disbelief, half in fear. "I can't do this anymore," she replied, her tone sharp. "This life. It's too small for me. I need more than this. More than you. More than kids clinging to me all day. I deserve better." Her words hit him like stones. He set down the grocery bag slowly, staring at her as if he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. "Better," he whispered. "You mean better than your family? Better than your children who love you more than anything?" Laura looked away, guilt flickering in her eyes, but she pushed it down. "They'll be fine with you. You're a good father. You can manage, but me, I need my own life." The children sensed something was wrong. "Mommy," the little girl asked softly, "where are you going?" Laura knelt down, forcing a smile. "Just somewhere else for a while." She kissed her daughter's forehead, but the child pulled back slightly, confused and scared. The boy's face turned pale as he realized what was happening. "You're not coming back, are you?" he asked in a trembling voice. Her silence answered him. Daniel's hands shook as he stepped closer. "Laura, think about what you're doing. Think about them. They need their mother." But Laura hardened her heart. "I need to think about myself for once." She grabbed the suitcase, brushing past him toward the door. The children cried out, "Mom, please don't go." Their small voices cracked in the air, desperate and trembling. But she didn't look back. Her heels clicked against the floor, sharp and final. Until the door shut behind her with a sound that seemed to echo forever in their hearts. The silence afterward was deafening. Daniel sank to his knees, pulling his children into his arms as they sobbed against his chest. He wanted to break down himself, to cry out in pain, but he forced himself to stay strong for them. "It's okay," he whispered, though his voice shook. "I'm here. I'll never leave you." From that night on, the Thompson household was never the same. The warm laughter of a family became shadowed with emptiness. The children grew quieter, learning to live with the ache of abandonment. Daniel, though broken inside, rose every morning determined to give them what their mother had taken away: love, stability, and the promise of never leaving. And Laura? She stepped into the night with her suitcase, chasing a life she believed would make her happy. She thought freedom meant joy, but she didn't know yet that freedom without love was only another kind of prison. The days after Laura left felt heavy, like a storm cloud hanging over the Thompson home. Daniel woke each morning to the sound of his alarm, but the silence in the house reminded him of the empty chair at the kitchen table. The children sat quietly, their eyes tired, their once bright laughter dimmed. Breakfast was simple toast, eggs when he had time, cereal when he didn't, but what mattered wasn't the food. It was the effort. Daniel tried his best, though inside he felt like a man learning to breathe underwater. The children asked about their mother in the beginning. "When is she coming back?" The little girl would whisper at night, holding her stuffed bear tight. Daniel would tuck her in, stroke her hair, and force a smile. "Soon, maybe," he would say, though he knew the truth. His son, older and more aware, stopped asking after a few weeks. He understood, in the quiet way children sometimes do, that their mother wasn't coming back. Life was not easy. Daniel worked long hours at a factory, and after his shifts, he returned home exhausted, only to face laundry, cooking, cleaning, and homework. Sometimes he burned dinner. Sometimes the kids went to bed with dishes still in the sink. But through every mistake, one thing never failed: his love. No matter how tired he was, he made time to sit with his children, listen to their stories, and remind them that they were not alone at school. The children carried the weight of their mother's absence. Some classmates whispered, some teachers looked at them with pity, but slowly, they began to find strength in their father's steady presence. They learned resilience, independence, and how to lean on each other. Their bond with Daniel grew unbreakable. They began to see him not just as a father, but as their anchor. Meanwhile, Laura's new life was not the dream she had imagined. At first, she felt free. She stayed out late, wore new clothes, and surrounded herself with people who promised adventure. For a little while, she believed she had escaped the chains of responsibility. But freedom, she soon realized, had a price. The people she thought were friends disappeared when times got hard. Relationships she chased for excitement crumbled, leaving her lonelier than before. The thrill faded quickly, replaced by emptiness. Nights grew longer and mornings colder. The laughter she thought she wanted turned out to be shallow compared to the laughter of her children. The laughter she had silenced the day she walked out. She tried to ignore the ache inside her chest, telling herself she had made the right choice. But every time she passed a park and saw children playing with their parents, guilt cut deep into her heart. She would hear echoes of her daughter's small voice, "Mommy, where are you going?" And her son's trembling question, "You're not coming back, are you?" Back at home, Daniel was transforming too. Struggles forced him to grow stronger. He learned to cook meals that his children loved, even experimenting with recipes late at night. He worked harder at his job, earning promotions slowly, building a better life step by step. His coworkers admired his determination, often saying, "That man never quits." The children blossomed under his care. His son grew into a protective older brother, guiding his sister through schoolwork, helping her with chores and shielding her from teasing. His daughter, though still tender, developed a quiet bravery, holding her father's hand tightly whenever he looked tired, whispering, "We'll be okay." "Daddy," the house was not perfected. was messy at times. The fridge sometimes nearly empty, but it was filled with love. Love that held them together. Love that grew stronger with every challenge. And while Laura's nights grew lonelier, Daniel's evenings grew warmer. He would sit with his children at the table, sharing stories, helping with homework, laughing when the spaghetti sauce spilled, or when his daughter's drawing looked nothing like the dog she claimed it was. These small, imperfect moments became their joy. The contrast between the two lives was sharp. Laura had chased excitement and ended up with emptiness. Daniel had been abandoned with responsibility and built strength, love, and resilience. The children, once heartbroken, were learning to thrive again. It was in those years that the foundation of regret began to form inside Laura's heart. Every happy family she saw in public reminded her of what she had lost. Every lonely night reminded her of the love she had thrown away. She didn't know it yet, but the family she had left behind had risen without her. They no longer needed her in the way they once did. And when the time came for her to face them again, she would discover that regret is the heaviest weight of all because it comes too late. Years passed. Seasons came and went, and the Thompson household slowly rebuilt itself. The pain of the mother's absence never fully disappeared, but Daniel and the children had grown used to life without her. They created new traditions, found joy in little things, and carried each other through every hardship. Daniel had changed too. The man who once came home exhausted and broken now carried himself with quiet strength. He had learned to balance work and family, to cook dinners his children actually enjoyed, to sit with them during late-night homework, and to show up at every school, play, or soccer game. People admired him for his devotion. He had become both father and mother in one. The children, now older, had blossomed. The boy had grown into a thoughtful teenager, protective of his sister and deeply respectful of his father. The girl had learned resilience, carrying her father's steady kindness in her heart. They still felt the sting of being abandoned, but their bond with their father gave them comfort and pride. Meanwhile, Laura's life was far from the dream she had imagined. The excitement she once chased had turned bitter. Relationships failed. Promises from others faded. The so-called freedom she longed for became loneliness. Nights stretched endlessly, filled with silence that no party or adventure could mask, and regret began to creep into her heart like a shadow she could no longer escape. One evening, she found herself scrolling through her phone, looking at photos of families' mothers hugging their children, couples smiling together. Each picture stabbed at her chest. She whispered to herself, "That could have been me. That should have been me." Tears slid down her face as she realized the years she had lost could never be returned. Her guilt finally pushed her to act. She decided to see the family she had left behind. She rehearsed what she might say. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I want to make things right." She convinced herself they would forgive her. That love could heal what time had broken. One crisp autumn afternoon, she gathered her courage and walked up the familiar street toward the house she once called home. The windows glowed warmly, and she could hear faint laughter inside. Her heart squeezed. She imagined her children rushing into her arms, Daniel forgiving her, the family becoming whole again. She knocked softly on the door. Daniel opened it, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of her. He stood taller now, his face more lined from years of responsibility, but his presence was stronger than ever. For a moment, silence hung between them. "Daniel?" She began, her voice trembling. "It's me. I wanted to see you." To see them. Behind him, the children appeared. They were older, taller, no longer the small kids who had begged her not to leave. The girl's eyes widened in shock, while the boy's expression hardened. "Mom." The girl whispered softly, her voice unsure. Laura's tears spilled over. She stretched out her arms, hoping they would run to her. But they didn't. The boy stepped slightly in front of his sister, protective. His voice was steady, but cold. "Why are you here?" Her lips trembled. Because I miss you. I regret leaving. I thought I wanted a different life, but I was wrong. I want to come back." The boy's jaw tightened. "We begged you not to go. You didn't care then. Now you care because you're lonely." His words were sharp, slicing through her fragile hope. The girl clutched her brother's arm, silent but with tears glistening in her eyes. She didn't move forward, didn't embrace the mother she had once longed for. Daniel finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Laura, you made your choice. I begged you to stay for them. You walked away. And yes, we hurt. We struggled. But we survived. They don't need to reopen old wounds." Her knees weakened. "Please, Daniel. I just want a chance." "I'm sorry." He shook his head slowly. "Sorry doesn't erase the years you missed. Sorry doesn't give them back their childhoods. You left us, and we built a life without you. They don't need you anymore. And I can't let you walk back in just because regret finally found you." Her tears fell harder. She had imagined forgiveness, but reality struck cruelly. Her children stood still, distant. The warmth she longed for was gone. Daniel closed the door gently, leaving her on the porch with her regrets echoing louder than ever. She stood there trembling, the sound of laughter inside the house twisting like a knife in her chest. She realized she had lost them not just in that moment, but years ago. The day she chose to abandon them. Walking away had been her choice. Regret was her punishment. And no matter how much she wanted it, she could never reclaim what she had thrown away. For the Thompsons, life carried on inside the house full of love, resilience, and strength. For Laura, the world outside felt colder than ever, a permanent reminder of the family she had lost forever.